In a saga that bewitched and bewildered a nation, the story of Jennifer Wilbanks, known as the Runaway Bride, unfolded like a narrative from the depths of fiction. In the spring of 2005, the quaint town of Duluth, Georgia, transformed into the unlikely backdrop for a tale of flight and mystery, one that would evolve into a peculiar blend of personal turmoil and public spectacle. At its heart was Jennifer Wilbanks, a bride-to-be whose sudden disappearance just days before her wedding captivated and confounded millions. Her story began as the archetype of a fairy tale wedding. The preparations were grand, the guest list extensive. Yet, beneath the facade of these wedding plans lay hidden currents of doubt and anxiety. As the wedding date loomed, Wilbanks, wrestling with internal conflicts, made a decision that would ripple across the country. On an evening close to the wedding, she vanished. Her disappearance triggered a massive search, sparking fears of abduction or harm. The nation watched, hearts laden with concern, as search parties scoured and media outlets buzzed with various theories about her fate. The tale of the missing bride-to-be, on the cusp of her joyful day, morphed into a story of distress and speculation. However, the trajectory of this tale took an unforeseen turn. Wilbanks, far from being in peril, had embarked on a solitary escape, driven by pre-wedding jitters and the immense pressure of expectations. Her cross-country escape to New Mexico unraveled the mystery. In a striking twist, it was revealed that her disappearance was not a crime, but an act of personal rebellion. The discovery that Wilbanks had orchestrated her own disappearance sent shockwaves of disbelief and indignation. The collective empathy transformed into a narrative of disillusionment and betrayal. The nation, initially empathetic to a tale of victimization, now grappled with a reality steeped in deceit. Her actions, rooted in a struggle with personal demons, had inadvertently spiraled into a public melodrama, scrutinized under the intense gaze of national attention. Join us as we explore this intriguing journey, a story that navigates the complexities of human emotions and societal pressures, standing as a vivid reminder of the unpredictable paths our lives can take. The time leading up to her disappearance. Before her sudden disappearance in 2005, Jennifer Wilbanks lived a life that, on the surface, seemed to embody the quintessential American dream. Hailing from the suburban tranquility of Duluth, Georgia, Jennifer was known among her peers and community as a personable and vivacious individual. Her life, prior to the events that would thrust her into the national spotlight, was a tapestry of personal achievements, community involvement, and the everyday joys and challenges of a young woman in modern America. Jennifer was born in 1972 and grew up in a close-knit community where she formed strong bonds with her family and friends. As a young woman, she was recognized for her outgoing personality and her active participation in local activities. She was the kind of person who could light up a room with her presence, known for her friendly demeanor and her willingness to lend a helping hand. Professionally, Jennifer carved out a successful career as an assistant at a medical office. She was admired by her colleagues for her work ethic and her ability to handle the pressures of the job with grace and efficiency. Her career choice reflected her caring nature and her desire to contribute positively to the lives of others. In her personal life, Jennifer was no stranger to love and relationships. Her engagement to John Mason, which came after several years of dating, was a significant milestone. The couple's relationship seemed to embody the ideal romance, and their engagement was celebrated by family and friends. John, a well-respected figure in his own right, was the son of a prominent local figure, further adding to the allure of their upcoming nuptials. The wedding plans were grand and detailed, with over 600 guests invited to celebrate the union. Jennifer threw herself into the wedding preparations with characteristic enthusiasm, but beneath the surface, this period was also marked by an increasing amount of stress and anxiety for her. The pressure of organizing such a large-scale event, coupled with the high expectations of those around her, began to take a toll. Jennifer's life, in the run-up to the wedding, was a whirlwind of activity. Between finalizing wedding details and fulfilling her professional responsibilities, her days were full and demanding. Friends and family observed that, despite her usual resilience, Jennifer seemed increasingly overwhelmed as the wedding day approached. However, no one anticipated that this stress would culminate in an act as drastic and bewildering as her disappearance. The disappearance. On April 26, 2005, Jennifer, amid the whirlwind of her impending wedding, made a decision that would drastically alter the course of her life and ignite a media frenzy. That evening, the atmosphere in Duluth, Georgia, was typical of a spring night. The town, a quiet suburb of Atlanta, was winding down from the day's activities. Jennifer's home, which she shared with her fiancé John Mason, was quiet, with John away for the evening. This solitude provided Jennifer with a moment of reflection, a pause in the relentless countdown to her wedding day. According to reports, Jennifer left her home for what was supposed to be a routine jog. She was a familiar sight in the neighborhood, often seen running as part of her regular fitness routine. However, this time, her jog would take an unexpected turn. Instead of following her usual route, Jennifer embarked on a journey that would lead her far away from Duluth. As the night progressed, John returned home to find Jennifer missing. Initially, he assumed she was with friends or family, considering the busy nature of the wedding preparations. But as time passed and Jennifer did not return, concern began to set in. When her friends and family confirmed they hadn't seen her, worry escalated into alarm. John, now deeply concerned, contacted the police to report Jennifer missing. The police initiated a search, starting with her usual jogging route and expanding to the surrounding areas. The local community quickly mobilized to assist, with neighbors and volunteers joining the search efforts. The serene suburb was transformed into a hub of activity, with search teams combing the area and flyers with Jennifer's photo distributed widely. As news of her disappearance spread, local media outlets began to cover the story. Jennifer's case struck a chord with the public, partly due to the proximity to her wedding day. The community, empathizing with the plight of the would-be groom and concerned for Jennifer's safety, rallied in support. The search for Jennifer became not just a police matter, but a community endeavor. The police investigation delved into various possibilities, including abduction, as there were no immediate signs of a struggle or foul play. Jennifer's family and fiancé were interviewed, providing insights into her state of mind and recent behaviors. The mystery deepened as initial leads and theories failed to materialize into concrete answers. The night Jennifer disappeared was calm, but the ensuing hours and days would be anything but. Her disappearance created a vortex of speculation, concern, and media attention. As dawn broke the next day, the quiet town of Duluth found itself at the heart of a mystery that would soon unravel in ways no one could have predicted. The search for Jennifer continued, each passing hour adding to the urgency and complexity of the case. The night of her disappearance would be remembered as the moment when the ordinary life of a suburban town was thrust into an extraordinary and bewildering scenario. The search. The search for Jennifer Wilbanks in Duluth and the ensuing national media frenzy became a defining chapter in the runaway bride saga. As the sun rose on April 27, 2005, the quaint suburb of Duluth was already pulsating with a sense of urgency and concern. The local community, along with law enforcement, was fully engaged in an extensive search for Jennifer, whose disappearance just days before her wedding was both baffling and alarming. The streets of Duluth, typically serene and untroubled, were now lined with search teams and volunteers. Police officers, alongside search dogs, combed the area, while volunteers distributed flyers and knocked on doors. The community's response was a testament to their solidarity and concern for one of their own. Local businesses and residents offered resources and support, transforming the town into a coordinated hub of search and investigation. Meanwhile, the story of the missing bride began to gain traction beyond the borders of Duluth. The national media, always attuned to stories with a blend of mystery and human interest, latched onto Jennifer's disappearance with fervor. The impending wedding, the sudden disappearance, and the lack of clear leads provided all the elements of a captivating story. National news outlets dispatched reporters to Duluth, turning the local search into a national news phenomenon. Television news programs featured Jennifer's case prominently, often leading with her story. The coverage ranged from sympathetic portrayals of a bride-to-be potentially in peril to speculative analyses of her reasons for disappearing. Cable news channels provided continuous updates, with talking heads dissecting every angle of the story. The public's fascination with the case grew, fueled by the relentless media coverage and the mystery at its core. As the story spread, the pressure on local law enforcement intensified. The Duluth Police Department found itself under the national spotlight, tasked with not only conducting a thorough investigation, but also managing the media frenzy. They held regular press conferences, providing updates and fielding an array of questions from local and national reporters. The case became a top priority, with resources allocated to ensure every possible lead was explored. Amidst this media whirlwind, John Mason, Jennifer's fiancé, found himself in an unenviable position. Thrust into the national spotlight, he faced the dual challenge of dealing with his personal anguish and responding to media speculation. His public appeals for Jennifer's safe return were heartfelt and added an emotional depth to the coverage. The search operation continued for days, with each passing hour adding to the tension and uncertainty. The national media, having cast its spotlight on Duluth, followed every development closely, turning the town and its residents into unwilling participants in a media spectacle. The narrative being spun was one of suspense, empathy, and an insatiable curiosity about the fate of the runaway bride. The revelation. As the search for Jennifer Wilbanks intensified in Duluth, a dramatic twist in the narrative was about to unfold, revealing the intricate tapestry of her disappearance. Several days into the search, as Duluth and the nation continued to grapple with various theories about her whereabouts, a phone call pierced the veil of mystery surrounding Jennifer's disappearance. The call, made by Jennifer herself, was to her fiancé, John Mason, from Albuquerque, New Mexico. This startling development immediately shifted the focus of the investigation. The missing bride, far from being in danger, was actually hundreds of miles away, and by her own volition. After leaving her home in Duluth, she had boarded a Greyhound bus, embarking on a cross-country journey that took her through various states. This journey was not just a physical escape, but also a psychological one. Jennifer, overwhelmed by the magnitude of her impending wedding and the expectations that came with it, sought refuge in anonymity, away from the familiar surroundings and the life that was awaiting her. As she traveled, Jennifer remained incognito, her identity as the missing bride unknown to those around her. Her journey was marked by moments of introspection and uncertainty. The long hours on the bus and the stops along the way provided her with time to contemplate her actions and the repercussions that would inevitably follow. Upon arriving in Albuquerque, Jennifer faced the reality of her situation. Isolated and grappling with the magnitude of her decision, she made the call that would bring an end to the search and start a new chapter of public scrutiny and personal reckoning. In her call, Jennifer initially spun a tale of abduction and release, a story that quickly unraveled under the weight of police investigation. The revelation that Jennifer had traveled across the country of her own accord came as a shock to the public and the media. The narrative quickly shifted from concern and empathy to disbelief and criticism. The national media, which had been closely following the search, now delved into dissecting her motivations and the psychological underpinnings of her decision. Jennifer's return to Georgia was a journey back into a world that was now vastly different from the one she had left. She was greeted not just by her relieved family and fiancé, but also by a media circus and a public brimming with questions and judgments. Her actions had transformed her from a sympathetic figure into a subject of national controversy. The reaction. The media, which had played a pivotal role in disseminating information about Jennifer's disappearance and rallying public support, felt particularly deceived. News outlets that had dedicated extensive coverage to her case now grappled with the revelation that they had unwittingly propagated a falsehood. The tone of the reporting shifted markedly, from empathetic concern to critical analysis. Journalists and commentators dissected every detail of Jennifer's story, scrutinizing her motivations and the implications of her actions. In the court of public opinion, Jennifer's actions were met with widespread condemnation. Social media platforms and internet forums became hotbeds of discussion, with many expressing anger and frustration at having been emotionally invested in what was now revealed to be a hoax. People felt misled, having offered genuine concern and sympathy for her supposed plight. The sense of community solidarity that had been fostered during the search efforts was replaced by a sense of collective indignation. The backlash was not just confined to casual observers and media pundits. Those directly involved in the search efforts, including law enforcement and volunteers, expressed their dismay. Resources, both human and financial, had been expended under the belief that they were searching for a person in danger. The realization that these efforts had been in vain added a layer of frustration to the public response. Public figures and legal experts weighed in on the case, discussing the potential legal ramifications for Jennifer's actions. Debates ensued about the misuse of police resources and the possibility of her facing criminal charges. The legal discourse added a formal dimension to the public outcry, suggesting that her actions might have broader consequences beyond social disapproval. The media also focused on the impact of the incident on Jennifer's family and fiancé. Their relief at her safety was tempered by the knowledge that they, too, had been misled. The coverage highlighted the emotional toll on her loved ones, further fueling public empathy for them and resentment towards Jennifer. Amidst the backlash, there were also voices calling for a more nuanced understanding of the situation. Some commentators and mental health professionals pointed to the immense pressure of societal expectations, particularly around weddings, and the possible psychological factors that could have led to Jennifer's drastic decision. This perspective introduced discussions about mental health and the stigma surrounding it, particularly in the context of coping mechanisms and stress. The consequences. Legally, Jennifer found herself at the center of a storm. The Gwinnett County District Attorney's Office, responding to the public outcry and the resources expended in the search, pursued charges against her. She faced a felony indictment for making a false statement and a misdemeanor charge for falsely reporting a crime. These charges underscored the seriousness with which the legal system treated her actions, emphasizing that her deception was not merely a personal matter, but one with real public consequences. The plea agreement that followed reflected both the gravity of her actions and an acknowledgement of the underlying factors that led to her flight. Jennifer was sentenced to 2 years of probation, 120 hours of community service, and ongoing mental health counseling. Additionally, she was ordered to reimburse the sheriff's office approximately $2,550 for the cost of the search, a sum that, while not covering the total expenses, symbolized her responsibility for the misuse of public resources. The legal proceedings were just one aspect of the consequences Jennifer faced. Her personal life underwent a dramatic transformation. The once-anticipated wedding to John Mason was called off, a decision that, while mutual, was undoubtedly influenced by the incident. Her relationship with her fiancé, once a source of love and stability, became another casualty of her actions. The psychological impact on Jennifer was profound. Required to undergo mental health counseling as part of her sentence, she embarked on a journey of introspection and recovery. This process involved grappling with the issues that had led to her drastic decision, including addressing the pressures and anxieties that had overwhelmed her. As the curtain fell on the saga of Jennifer Wilbanks, the runaway bride, her journey from a pre-wedding disappearance in Georgia to a self-imposed exile in New Mexico left an indelible mark on public consciousness. Her story, a dramatic tableau of personal turmoil and deception, not only led to legal repercussions, but also sparked a broader dialogue about the complexities of mental health and the weight of societal expectations. Join the conversation. Drop a comment to share your thoughts and insights. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more captivating content. Thanks for tuning in to Really Unreal. Join us tomorrow as we cover the case of Marcus Schrenker. What were the psychological factors that led Schrenker to orchestrate such an elaborate hoax, and how did he manage to evade authorities for as long as he did? Stay curious, stay connected,